Hi everyone and welcome back to Sprinkle with Paper. Today we're going to be making a full wrap for our cold Starbucks cup. Before we open Cricut Design Space, we're first going to head on over to sprinklewithpaper.net. That's where you're going to locate your free full wrap Starbucks template. Now we'll head on over to Cricut Design Space and we're going to go over to Uploads and we're going to upload that file, that template that we had just downloaded from sprinklewithpaper.net. So the thing about this template, it's a little bit different than maybe some other templates you've used in the past because we're not actually going to be cutting it out. We're just using it as a guide so we know where we can place all of the different images or wording that we decide to put onto our cup. So to add all my images, I'm just going to go over to the left-hand side and click on Images. And the first thing I'm going to search for is a daisy. And since I'm going to be using an everyday vinyl for this design, I'm going to look for something that doesn't have too many intricate parts. And that's only because, for me personally, I find that when I'm weeding out a vinyl, sometimes it's really hard to get those little intricate parts. If I was using an iron-on, it would be different. Iron-on is a lot easier to weed out, and so that's normally when I would pick a more detailed design. So for this one, I feel like this daisy right here kind of is the perfect balance. It has multiple layers, but there's not too many tiny little sections that I'm going to have to weed. So now that I found my flower, now I'm going to search for a bumblebee. There are so many cute bumblebee designs, and I actually really like the ones with the little cartoon faces, but because of the flower I chose and kind of the design I'm going for, I'm going to look for something that has just kind of a simple look. And I'm only going to have one bumblebee on my cup, but I can't decide between these two, so I'm just going to bring them both back to my project page, and then I will see which one I like more with the flower. So now that I have both of the bumblebees with the flower, I can definitely tell that I like the one that's more simple. So I'm just going to delete the one that has the multiple layers with the little trail. So now it's time for the fun part. We're just going to decorate the template using the images that we picked out. So for my design, I'm basically just going to cover the template with the flower. So I'm just going to duplicate it several times, and I'm going to also adjust the size of the flowers so I have all different sizes. So keep in mind where the circle is on your template, that's going to be where the Starbucks logo is located. So if you don't want the logo to be covered, just make sure that you don't cover up that circle. Or if you do want something to kind of be peeking into the logo or like covering it a little bit, then you can do that as well. So it's just kind of a personal preference. So at this point of the design, I feel like this looks really cute, but I just feel like it's missing something. I just want to add a few more little embellishments to make it more of a springtime cup. So I'm going to go back over to Images, and this time I'm just going to search for a leaf. I feel like we just need to bring in some more color, so a green leaf I think will be the perfect touch. And just like all the images, there are so many to choose from, but I think that I found two that I like, so I'm just going to bring them back over to my project page to see which one I like more. And I think I like the multiple layer leaf more, just because it goes well with the flower and also with the bumblebee. So from here, I'm just going to duplicate the leaf, and I'm just going to scatter it around the template. Once all the leaves are in their position, then I'm just going to go in and I'm going to change the center of all of the daisies to a brighter yellow. So this isn't necessary, but I'm just doing this so I can get a good idea of what my design is going to look like once it's cut. So I think this design looks great as is, but I want to add in just a little bit more color. And to do that, I'm just going to go over to images and I'm going to search for a heart. So I'm just looking for a very basic heart. So I think I'm just going to grab this outline of a heart and then also a solid heart, and I'll see which one I like more. And now that I see the hearts on the design, I feel like the solid heart is just going to add that pop of color that I'm looking for. So now I'll just duplicate this solid heart and I'm going to place it on my design. And now the last thing I want to do before finishing up this design is I want to add another layer to the bumblebee. I want to add some yellow stripes down its middle section. So to do that, I'm just going to duplicate the bee, and then I'm going to use the contour tool on this bee that I've duplicated to single out the portions of the bee that I want to turn yellow. If you're not familiar with the contour tool, it's really simple to use. So basically, you're just going to be hiding all of the areas that you no longer want to be showing. So I'm just going to hide all of the pieces until I'm left with those 3 single stripes. Now I'll just change the stripes to yellow and layer them onto my original bumblebee. So now that my design is complete, I can now just delete this template. We no longer need it. And then from here, we need to group each of these different layers, meaning we need to group all of the yellow together, all the white, green, black, pink. We need to do that so when we go to cut it, it will be easy to layer it on top of each other. So the first color I'm going to group together is going to be black. So the first thing we need to do is we need to hide all of the pieces that are not black. So just over here on the right hand side, we're just going to click that little eye icon and we're going to hide all of the colors except for black. Once we're left with only the black pieces, I'm just going to highlight everything and then I'm going to click weld. Now to bring back the pink hearts. Just hide the black. Again, I'll just highlight all of the pink hearts and click weld. And then I will hide all the pink and bring back the green. Next, I'll move on to the yellow and then the white. And once the white is welded together, I'll just bring back all of the layers. So that's going to be the black, white, yellow, green, and pink. And then I'll click Make It, and I will cut out all of these individual pieces. And so now that all of our pieces are cut, now we just need to weed everything out. And it's worth mentioning that I had a really difficult time weeding out all of these pieces. So this was one of the first times that I used the Paper Studio brand from Hobby Lobby for the vinyl. I've used it a lot for iron-on and I've had great success. I've never had an issue. But with the vinyl, just the permanent vinyl, it really did not work well. So I don't recommend using this brand for vinyl, but I do recommend it for the iron-on. So if I were to make this again, I definitely would use the Cricut brand because I really had a hard time, but I didn't want to give up. I felt like I'd already spent all this time creating the design in Cricut Design Space and then spending the money on the supplies. So I was determined to finish up this cup, but it was definitely a headache. So it is worth investing in good supplies. So don't go the cheap route like I did and use the Studio brand. Definitely splurge for the Cricut brand when you're doing vinyl. As you can see here, I did end up recutting the green pieces, and this time instead of weeding out the green pieces, I did kind of like a reverse weed. So I put the transfer tape directly onto the cut, and then I pulled that off, and that worked so much better. So if you have a hard time like weeding out really intricate parts, you might want to try it this way. And so now I'm just going to start assembling everything onto my cup. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add that transfer tape to the bottom layer, which is the black. And then we're going to take that hand towel that I had mentioned before, and we're just going to roll it up on the sides, and we're going to use it to kind of cradle our cup so it doesn't roll around when we're placing the design on it. Now just position the design onto the cup, and then I'm just going to use my fingers to kind of smooth it out before I pull back that transfer tape. Next, I'll add the transfer tape to our next layer, which is going to be the white. And then I'm just going to line up the petals onto the flowers that are already on the cup. And then as you can see, I'm just still struggling through trying to finish this. So there's a few spots that I couldn't get the flower petals to line up just perfectly. I'm not exactly sure what happened. So what I did is I just cut those pieces off and then I just put them on separately. It was a lot easier just to cut a few off and do it separately than trying to line everything up as a whole. But this is just a good reminder that when you're crafting, things aren't always going to go perfectly. But that doesn't mean that you need to abandon the project. It just means that you had to find another way of completing it. So that's why I just cut these pieces off and put them on separately. And I'm going to do that for the yellow pieces as well. Now to finish up our cup, I'm just going to add on the green leaves and the pink hearts. And I think this turned out super cute. So I'm really glad that I stuck with it. Even though I had a few hiccups, I just kind of powered through and I ended up with a super adorable cup. So like I had mentioned before, don't use the Paper Studio brand for vinyl, but do use it for iron-on. It's definitely a good deal for iron-on. But if you're going to be doing a Starbucks cup, I would suggest investing in using the Cricut brand so you can have an easier time than I did. But I hope this video was helpful, even though you saw all the little issues that I had. If you have any questions, please just leave them down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, happy crafting.